Hey guys, welcome back. Back to my little production room, back for another conversation about music. We're going to be doing I did a different type of vinyl battle this week. It's actually vinyl versus CD versus streaming. Something different. I've kind of wanted to do that for a little while, so we're going to get to that in a few minutes. We're going to recap a couple things, some social media stuff that's been going on recently. And of course, we're going to talk about the Michael movie, still steamrolling ahead, and all kinds of stuff. So I've already poured myself a cheap glass of red Cabernet, and I invite you to grab a seat, grab an adult beverage or a not adult beverage, whatever you prefer, and hang out in the studio with us for a few minutes. It's good to see you again. What a week. The weeks just seem to be flying by. We are doing the best we can. I think Maddie and I have been pretty disciplined about getting a new podcast out every week. It's something that we kind of set a goal to do. There's a lot of new things that we're trying to accomplish this year. One of them, I think I've talked to you about a little bit, is Give Kids the World. If you do not know what Give Kids the World is, please look it up. It's an amazing charitable organization here in Orlando where families with children who are suffering from some sort of critical illness go for a week. They're tied in very closely with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and they go to the Orlando parks, to Disney, to Universal. It's a huge campus. And I've been working with their entertainment team about bringing my Mixing and Stories in the studio with MJ to them on Saturday night. And we're going to do it. We're going to pack up the gear and go set up. And I'm going to let families come up and mix one of their favorite MJ songs. We're extremely excited about it. And I'm hoping to build a good, strong relationship with them for quite some time. So that's on the immediate agenda. Also, after you've watched this, we're going to have done our Sunday live stream. We're going to go live on Sunday. We've got a lot of new stuff to talk about, planning out the rest of the year, some of our live events, some of our live stream events. And we just haven't had a good, chat, a virtual conversation for quite a while. So again, by the time you watch this, we'll have already done that. But that's the fun of recording a few days in advance. So here we are. Our little channels are growing. TikTok is getting stronger. Instagram is growing like crazy. Facebook, my old faithful Facebook friends, they keep joining the party. So thank you. If you've been joining any of those, fantastic. That's probably the quickest way to get info. YouTube is what a lot of you are watching us on right now. And same thing. We're watching our numbers grow here. I'm not a YouTuber. I always feel kind of funny, with the old, if you, like and subscribe, hit the bell or whatever. But yeah, we are seeing the numbers go up and we love that. I love sharing these stories. So if you'd be so kind, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That means a lot to us. Patreon. We've been, if you tuned in with us over the past couple of days or received our newsletter or anything at all, we have launched a Patreon account. And I'm excited about it. It's a way that you can join us in the work that we do. There's different tiers in Patreon. I'm doing bonus content, so I just did a walk around Disney a couple days ago and posted that on Patreon. So there'll be, when I travel, there's going to be a lot of special things that we put over for our Patreon followers. So if you would consider joining us as a Patreon partner, we would love that and deeply, deeply appreciate it. All right. I think that's most of what I wanted to recap. Coming up, look here. Look at this. Look at these two guys. I mean, give me a break. That's a couple good-looking guys there. Me and Brad Buxer. Brad and I are going, by the time you're watching this, I'm probably either in Berlin or on a flight to Berlin. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic weekend. Soon after that, on July 18th, we are going to be live streaming the virtual tour of Neverland. I haven't done it in a while, so we are going to be taking you to Neverland in a virtual, interactive chat Q&A way. I've done the tour many, many times. Obviously, I don't actually go to Neverland. It's just a virtual tour that I take you through. That is going to happen on July 18th, and it's actually happening 2 times. So for my friends in the U.S. and in Europe, it's going to start at 12 noon New York time. And for my friends in Australia and Asia, we're going to be doing the exact same thing again the next morning. Stay with me, on the 19th at 9 a.m. Sydney time. So you can go to the ticket site, go to a world clock, and you can kind of figure it all out. But we're doing one for its kind of reasonable hours here in the U.S., and another one where it's early morning in Australia and in Japan. And it's something you can come to both of them. I don't care. But tickets are available for both of those at www in the studio with MJ. Then I haven't done a hometown show in a long time, so I decided it's probably time to do one here in Orlando. So July 25th, we are going to be doing the full In the Studio with MJ seminar right here in Orlando at Living Frame Studio. Really fun venue that we've used many times. This is probably the only one where I actually bring my own sound system, and I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty proud of how my sound system sounds. It's pretty legit, and I take great care in making that room sound really good. So that's coming up July 25th. Then the following month, back to LA, August 28th through August 30th. We're going to be back in LA. That's going to be a really fun weekend. I'm planning on Brad Buxer being there with me. We're going to be doing a very special 40th anniversary of Captain EO with Matt Forger. That's going to be in LA. I probably am going to live stream that, just that one portion. And then I'll do my normal seminar. And you never know who's going to pop in. All my friends are in LA. Not all my friends, but I have a lot of friends in LA. I'm pretty sure Brian Vibberts is going to pop in. Obviously, Matt Forger is going to be there. So I've invited a few other friends. I'm not going to name names right now, but that's all coming up. Later in the fall, we're working on a couple of really cool projects. I can't go into a lot of details just yet. Definitely be heading back to Europe a couple times. And we might do 1 or 2 pop-ups in the U.S. Who knows? So that was a lot. That was, I guess we'd call that the introduction or the housekeeping stuff, all that. So I did something that I've never really done this before. I've done a bunch of my vinyl battles, and those are always really fun. Where if go back a few YouTubes, and you can find some of them. But sometimes I'll take like the History album, which had all the best of stuff, and then compare it with like an original Thriller album or an original Bad album, and just kind of compare the sounds of vinyl. There's a whole school about mastering and remastering and what all that means. And I don't really want to get into all that right now. You can go back and check some of those out. But I decided to do something a little bit different. It's not that unpredictable. But what I did was I decided to use the song Dirty Diana. I was there when Steve Stevens came in and did the solo on Dirty Diana. I was there for all the vocals, the whole thing. Powerful, crazy, loud song. Bruce just, bent the needles when he mixed Diana. So what I did was I busted out, I got to kind of watch my placement here, but I busted out my old Bad vinyl. I have a whole stack of these. So I got that out. Then this is one of my original Bad CDs. And for my people over a certain age, remember when CDs used to be sold like this? They had a word for this. I forget, because the CD is only down here. That's all it is. But they had this when you used to go to a record store. This is how CDs were sold, and they're basically the same height as the album, but that way they could use the same containers that they used to use for vinyl, except they'd put CDs in them. There's a word for that. I can't remember what the word is, but. So I got out one of my Bad CDs. This one's sealed. I didn't open this one, but I've got a bunch. So I compared Dirty Diana from the vinyl to the CD, and then just for fun, I went ahead and I listened to it on Spotify on a Sonos port. So this is where there's about 190 variables that come into play. So let me try and explain my system to you. I have what I would call a pretty decent little listening system. This is not, some $60,000 Allen Sides crazy Augsburger system. It's not. It's a pair of Kali speakers, self-powered little studio monitors, and I do have a JL subwoofer under my production desk. That's it. A pair of my speakers are clean, they're clear, they're very predictable. I know how music sounds on them. And for my recording, cats, my recording folks, maybe you understand that, if you have one pair of speakers that's really kind of your go-to, that becomes your litmus test. You're able to compare things using that same pair of speakers. I have access to some amazing equipment. I could have listened to them on some $70,000 Sonus Fabers with Macintosh power amps and the whole thing. But that's not real world. You know what I mean? My room here, if I did the math, these speakers, they're well under $1,000 a pair. The subwoofer is actually more than that. And then don't laugh, but I run everything through a Clark Technique little mixer, and that's just what I use. And it's clear, it's uncolored. I'm not doing any bass or treble or anything like that. It's just what goes in comes out. I do have my my OG Techniques SL1200 turntable, and even that I've got a few different cartridges that I throw on it. For this test, I just used a Stanton, basically a DJ cartridge. I would say that it's kind of equivalent to if you bought like a new project turntable for maybe $1,500, something like that. It might be equivalent to that. This is not some highbrow, I call them the beard strokers, the old guys that have their, $17,000 cartridges and their platters and on and on and on. This isn't that at all. I try to be a little more real world and kind of what an enthusiast might buy, not somebody that has more money than common sense, but just somebody that wants a nice little listening system. So the vinyl I played on the Techniques turntable. It does go through kind of a nice preamp. It's a preamp I've had for a long time, but it's not doing any magic. It's just a nice job of getting the sound from the vinyl into my mixer up to my speakers. For the CD player, I've got I guess what you'd call a pretty nice Sony ES CD player. Nothing extraordinary. Taking the analog outputs out of that, feeding it into the little mixer and out to the speakers. Nothing fancy at all. Sonos port, if you're familiar with it, it's a little streaming box. Again, it's middle of the road. It's an affordable little streamer, and I just use Spotify. Once again, I'm not going to get into all of the craziness of Tidal or whatever that other one is, Cubase, Cubose, whatever it is. I don't really think that's normal people. That's somebody that wants to sit with a glass of Cavassier in front of their, $90,000 music system. And I'm happy for those guys. I mean, I sometimes build their systems, so I'm not dissing on them too hard, but it's not really what I would call real world. So in my quote unquote real world system, I compared the song Dirty Diana from the Sonos port to my Sony CD player to my Techniques turntable. I know this probably won't come as a big surprise to anybody, but the Spotify version came in third. We'll just say that. It's pretty dramatic how much that stuff is compressed and we're just used to it, and sometimes I almost feel bad for I call them kids, but people, a few years younger than me, they stick some earbuds in their ears and they go for a jog or whatever. Yeah, you're streaming ultra compressed music. And that's how, Spotify delivers a lot of music to a lot of destinations on the internet. So listening to it in my little listening room, I don't want to say that, I covered my ears and, oh, it was terrible. It was Michael. I mean, it sounded like Dirty Diana. You could hear Steve Stevens. You could hear the bass. I mean, everything was there. It was just thin and compressed, and which is kind of what I would have expected when you're, just got background music on, you're, making dinner or whatever. I mean, I'm not dumb. A lot of people stream their music from their phone. They listen on their phone speaker, or they'll, have a little, what do they call those things? The little Google things on their kitchen counter. I have one. I can't remember what it's called. And, you tell it to play, a certain song and it plays it, or, Alexa, whatever. And so you kind of get the essence of the song. You hear the beat, you hear the melody, it's all there, but it certainly lacks a lot of the depth and fidelity that we, the work that we put into making it sound as good as it can. So Spotify, in terms of convenience, 5 stars, tough to beat. And that's about where it ends. It sounded like the music, but nothing really to get terribly excited about, in my opinion. Don't take any of this too seriously. So here's where it got a little more interesting. I went ahead and I played the CD, and it's kind of funny. If you, it'll take you about 3 minutes of research. 3 minutes. It'll take you 4 seconds of research. CDs are actually selling again. I think there's a bit of a resurgence of, people building their CD collections again. I mean, I've got hundreds and hundreds of CDs, and I think it's great. For a while, CDs were just flatlining. I mean, everybody was streaming. And now I think they're finally starting to figure out that streaming, you win in convenience, but it really doesn't sound that great. Like I say, if you want to get into the whole Tidal world and blah, 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 have a $6,000 streamer, knock yourself out. But that's not the average normal person. So Dirty Diana on the CD, man, it sounded good. It was clear and punchy, the energy of it. And I'm pretty scientific. When I do these, tests where I'm comparing 3 things against each other, I'm matching the volumes. I don't have any EQ going on. It's very, very flat. What goes in comes out. And so I'm hearing the music, the speakers, and the little bit of signal path that it's going through is really having no effect whatsoever. It's not making one sound better than the other. They're all getting the same treatment. So the CD, it was fat and big dynamics. I mean, I was there when Bruce mixed it. And there's very little compression. You know what's on the CD? This is a true story. On both the CD and the vinyl, when we did the final mixes of the Bad album, on just about every song, we had a GML, George Massenburg Labs equalizer across the stereo bus. No compressor, but we did have an EQ. And Bruce boosted, I think it was 40 hertz at about, I don't want to exaggerate, but I want to say it was 4 or 5 dB, something like that, basically across the whole record. And it just brings up that low end. It just pushes the bass right through the floor. And so on the CD, As soon as I heard that massive intro to Dirty Diana, when the music really swells up, there, in my mind, I still see them. I see the patch chords feeding into the GMLEQ and then out to the 2-track. But that's what you hear. You hear that just thunderous low frequency that Bruce put on at the very, very tail end of the mix. So the CD, beautiful, clear, punchy. Convenience level, I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, you literally take it out of the jewel box, you put it into your CD player, and you hit play. And you've got just thunderously good music. So then let's go to the vinyl. I do love vinyl. I try to keep my records really clean. In fact, I have a friend about an hour away, and he's got a pretty expensive record cleaning kit. And he's told me anytime I want to come up there and, spend, I don't even have to stay. It's just a hobby of his. So I'll bring up like 2 shopping bags of records and leave them with him for about a week. And he cleans them and they come back to me just pristine. So I put my bad vinyl onto my Technics turntable. Don't laugh at me. I know some of you guys are, there might be a couple hi-fi heads in the room. Don't laugh at me too hard. You know what? I'm just going to be totally honest. I normally use my Ortophone Red. I actually like this cartridge a lot. Again, you want to spend $900 on a cartridge, $2,600 on a cartridge, knock yourself out. I don't really think that's, yes, you do get some return on your investment, but not, everything has to go along with that. You can't just buy a great cartridge. You've got to buy a great preamp. You've got to buy all these other pieces that make the cartridge purchase worthwhile. So don't hate on me. I actually like the Ortophone stuff. I like the Ortophone Red. I think it's a good, kind of a good, affordable cartridge. But my stylus broke. And I don't know how. Maybe I did some dusting and pulled my stylus off. I don't know. I got to get a new stylus. So my Ortophone took a dump, but the show must go on. So I pulled out one of my Stantons, and not a fancy cartridge by any means. It's a DJ cartridge. But this is absolutely true. A Stanton cartridge and an SL1200 is exactly what we used for our quality control tests of the History album back in 1995. So I'm not gonna hate on the Stanton too much. Is it ultra high fidelity? No, but it's a good Toyota Camry cartridge that it's going to get you where you need to go. It's going to be reliable and predictable. So I threw the Stanton on, and I dropped the needle on Dirty Diana. Was I just blown away? Like, oh my goodness, the angels are singing? No, I'm being totally honest with you. The system that I'm using is very almost transparent, almost surgical in some ways, because I know how things are supposed to sound going through this particular system. What I will say is that there was something about it. The high frequencies were just clearer. And, you've got all these guys that say, oh, I can hear, the sampling rate, 44.1, that squares off, some of the sine waves, blah, blah, blah. I don't really, preach that sermon too much. I used to love CDs, the convenience of CDs, taking them with you. I think CDs do sound really, really nice. But the vinyl, even with the Stanton cartridge, even with what I would call a very approachable music system, the music just got wider. It went outside of the speakers. The lows got lower. There was something in the clarity. And Diana is a powerful song. I mean, it's not Liberian Girl. It's not a subtle little, let's evaluate this thing. It will split your head open. But there was something about, and I don't want to use a bunch of hi-fi terms on you, but something about the depth and just that width where the music just gets wider. The beard strokers might call it the sound stage. The sound stage gets wider than the speakers, and that's what happened. It just, I was able to close my eyes and, number one, remember what it sounded like in the studio. It sounded a lot better than this. I mean, I'm not going to lie. When you're listening to it, on a Mitsubishi X86, through a pair of Westlake SM1s, $120,000 a pair of speakers, something like that. Yeah, it's going to sound better at Westlake than it is in Brad's production room, but it translates really well. And the vinyl, which almost surprised me just a little bit, but the vinyl, in my opinion, won the battle. It just brings that extra little something that, as much as I think the CD sounded great, the vinyl, to me, even with its little pops and idiosyncrasies and setting up the cartridge and getting the preamp set up properly and all that, in terms of just sitting back and enjoying what the record sounds like, I give it to the vinyl. I still do. There's even a resurgence, and this makes no sense to me. There's a resurgence of cassettes. No, come on. I'm a good sport, but I don't know. So that's how I spent my night. I've got a nice glass of cheap red wine here. I've got some MJ music, and I've got you guys. And I genuinely appreciate it. I love the community that we're building. Can you believe it? This is absolutely true. In 2027, a year from now, I have to look up the exact date. See all these posters behind me? I've been doing live events for 15 years. I've been meeting with groups in studios and rehearsal rooms and crazy, crazy places. We were in Frankfurt, Germany. I booked a studio called Cream Studios, and I so hope it's still there. I would love to go back to Cream Studios at some point. And I got there, and it's like a bunch of apartment buildings. And I'm like, oh man, I got duped. There is no Cream Studios. And here on the gate was this little sign, the little metal sign said Cream Studios. Behind that, you walked like another 40, 50 feet, and there was a little garden shack. A true story. Little garden shack on the name, Cream Studios. And I'm like, I got ripped off. I'm going to be like, these people are going to show up. 40 people are going to fit into a garden shack? I opened the door, and there were stairs right in the middle of the courtyard. Stairs that went down to this huge, I'm going to call it a bunker, but they called it a studio. And it was this wild underground studio under the courtyard of this apartment building. And I think I had like 50 or 55 guests down there. Completely bananas. It was so much fun. I mean, that was might have been 2016, 2017, something like that. So we've had some amazing experiences. We've been to Australia a couple times, met some fantastic people. I've got some followers probably here on the YouTube channel from Australia. New Zealand was an absolute treat. And every studio, every venue is different. Every group is different. But they're all special. Every single person that comes to my event or watches my live stream or watches my YouTube or whatever, they're all real people. And they all have some connection to music or to Michael or engineering or something that builds a little community. And I love that. So next year is our 15th anniversary. And I'm trying to figure out what to do, trying to figure out where to go. It all did start in Paris, so I kind of have to go back to Paris. And then I don't know. I would love to increase the number of events that we do. I would love to go to cities that we haven't been to yet. We're looking at Bulgaria, of all places. We're looking at Warsaw, Poland. Possibly in the fall. I've got some wonderful people that have been in contact with me about, please, Brad, come to Warsaw. And that means the world to me. I love bringing the music, bringing the memories of Michael, the work that we did, and the joy that we had doing the work to as many places and as many faces as possible. So all that to say thank you. If you do love what we're doing, number one, I would appreciate it if you would like and subscribe our videos. And number two, if you're curious or really want to support us even more, Patreon is a great way to do it. So Dirty Diana on vinyl for the win, FTW as the kids say. And with that, I'm going to say good night. Have a great evening. Have a great week. And keep supporting that Michael movie. Let's push it past $1 billion and just have it keep going and going and going. All right. God bless. Can't wait to see you soon. Thanks for hanging out. Take care.